Good evening. We're going to call our budget working session to order. Ms. Meeker, will you take the roll?
Ms. Boucher.
Here.
Ms. Campbell, not here. Ms. Hastings, not here. Ms. Higgins.
Here.
Mr. Richards.
Here.
Ms. Sadowski.
Here.
Ms. Walsh.
Here.
And I am here. That is 6. We have a quorum.
Great, thank you. And it looks like Ms. Desmond is ready to make the presentation. We are discussing revenues this evening.
Nope.
No?
Just
I'm
here.
just here in case you need.
Yep.
Revenues and transfers, I thought?
Yep.
Oh,
Everything's transferred and works so fine. Yep. Okay. Good?
yep.
All right. So, this is, and printouts are coming for you. But, there's 3 slides here for local revenue, and in your budget book, which I meant to put the page number, sorry. This is also in there and what those amounts are. But you can see just on this page, we have a couple things that are increasing. One is, the first one, the current appropriations is the increase in local taxes and the amount being raised. That's the first item, so that's 3.7 million. Revenue in lieu of taxes is a pilot. A pilot is called payment in lieu of taxes, and that we're expecting an additional 7,650. For the tuition, that tuition is Project Search, and we're anticipating 10 students. 2 will be Concord, 2 of which are adults, and that tuition is 26,000. And then let me see, what else do we have there? The regular day tuition is the preschool tuition, staying the same. The summer enrichment for tuition, that is the CRTC program. So I think it was asked about what was being affected by the shutdown of the high school this summer. We will not be running that enrichment program for CRTC because the school will be closed for the HVAC upgrade. So that's why there's no revenue for that program. Okay. And then the tuition from LEAs in the state. That is the Deerfield Special Ed tuition. And then the next one of the regular day tuition, that is the Deerfield tuition, accounting for the reduction in the number of students that we're anticipating, as well as a parent who's paying independently to send their child to the high school. Okay, so that's combined tuition in there. If I go to the next slide, you have the vocational tuition. So that's the money that we send to the schools. If you remember the presentation, what was it, at the last meeting or the meeting before the break? Well, whatever the meeting was before the break, where you had the CRTC principal come in and explain it's a 75-25 split, but they're only paying 56 of the 75, so that downshifts, and we build a local, and I think we build the local about 1.2 some million. So that's where that money goes into. And then you have the differential, which is money that we charge the sending schools. And then you have student bus fees. We have none budgeted to charge the bus fees. And then other charter, a lot of that is related to PTOs and grants on what we charge for the buses. And we do charge the entitlement grants or any of the grants for the use of the buses. Interest on investment, we've upped that about 40,000, because that ran higher this year, and we're anticipating with the high year investments, about 24 million in the expendable trust funds, as well as cash on hand. Our biggest payrolls are the year-end payroll, and then the startup payroll. So. But the June 30th is the big one, because you do the balloon checks and payout contracts, so that's where the cash flow. But other than that, we're okay. And then gate receipts for admissions into athletic events, and then the activity fees that they charge for enrolling in sports, the various sports programs, both at the middle school and the high school. And then just historically, we show what we're raising in local taxes for the last 6 years, not including current, just to give you that historical perspective. Next group of local revenues is rentals of the facilities. We're going to anticipate that down about 35,000. A P card rebate is what we get for when we charge. We use a credit card and we get a rebate for that. So that's going down over the years because the utility companies now charge a fee to use the card. So if they charge a fee, we don't use the credit card. So we'll see how things go with that. And then that's a summary of all the local. There's nothing else from here. Now I'll move on to the state. So you have the Equitable Education Grant, which is a calculation done by the state based on our numbers from last year. And we're anticipating about a $69,000 reduction in equitable aid for the state education tax, which is the second component of the education. You have the local education tax, which was in that current appropriations line, and then you have the state education tax. Then anticipates that that's going to raise $37,745 more. And in your budget, you see the warrant article that is issued in January, and that just tells you what you need to raise locally, which is that 71,3812. It doesn't give you a percentage, doesn't give you a rate. That just tells you that's the amount you need to raise. The other unrestricted aid is money from the EFA phase out. So I think they anticipate 50% for FY26 and 25% for FY25. School building aid, that's going down a little bit because as our debt declines, that goes down. And that is made up of the elementary consolidation and the HVAC done at Runlet in 2008, 2009. And then you have the VOC tuition, which is the state's portion of that tuition. Special education aid, and we have a slide on that next, and that's just a guess on what we anticipate getting from the state for aid. We expect $55,000 more. And then the VOC differential from the state for the tuition portion. And then if we go into the historical from the state, specific state items, the state education tax, you could see in 1920, we're told to raise 7.7 million. As you go across, that's been going down. State adequacy in 1920, 14.4 is now 18.4, but it pretty much hovered around that 14, mid-14s, jumped to 16.4 in 23-24, 20.9 million, and now down to 18.4 million. And then special education aid, which used to be called catastrophic aid, you can see that that has ranged from 191 all the way up to 819. And then other charter, which is that unrestricted aid, has ranged from 17 to 589,000. And now if you go to the next slide, this shows you what we were entitled to get for special education aid and what we ultimately received. So you can see in 1920, we were to receive 298,948 of our entitlement. They gave us 94.47% of that, which was 282. Yeah.
Jack, are you considering what is currently in the governor's budget, or kind of keeping that in the back of your mind? Because she said publicly she was going to double special education spending,
Right.
Not through adequacy, but as sort of catastrophic aid.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's something that you have sort of hopefully calculated in, or if there's any way to calculate what that could potentially be. What do you think, John? I see you chomping at the bit for that one.
Well, that's a great topic. I think that there's nothing concrete yet. I've been
Oh, I
watching
know
it.
I know it.
I've been watching it and saying, okay, what does that mean? How do we apply for that? Will it be a redistribution of funds not distributed because we only got 66.4%? Would it mean that we should get more from last year's submission of almost $840,000? So I don't know. So right now it's hard to say what the avenue will be to procure the funds. We're kind of made sure that we are being very accurate about our monthly submissions right now. And I kind of, since I saw that, saying like we have to be, and have spoken to all our building leaders to saying, making sure that we're getting all of our logs and all the things that we need for that to watch it. So we're prepared to bill when it comes down to whatever that is.
Good
So
deal.
we're collecting right now is what I'd say in anticipation, but to give Jack and I talked about this, and to give him a number of what we think, we just don't know right now.
That's legit. Yeah, but HB2 was published today, by the way.
Was it?
Ms. Hastings, did you have a question?
Not yet.
Okay.
So you'll see my important note in the transfers, and that's where we'll highlight a little bit more about.
On the
Your
state education aid, and if you don't have it, that's fine, but can you give us a breakdown of the aid by category, base aid,
Oh, yeah.
ESL?
Sure, yeah,
That
we can
type
do
of
that for Wednesday, is that all right?
Yeah, that'd be
Yep.
great, and if we can have that projected for next year compared to this year, that would be helpful.
Okay, yeah, we could just use the BOI. Okay. On the federal side, I'm gonna go back and highlight this, because this is a big component. As you can see, you get as little as 37% of your entitlement, all the way up to 98% of your entitlement. And for this past year, you got 68.79% of that entitlement. So we have in here 650,000, which we think is a good middle road. We'll see what the governor's budget does, but all I say is October. So I'll move on to now the federal. So the first line is money that we get from the Build America bonds, which was for the Runlet HVAC. That was the federal stimulus to pay 0% interest on the project, and you would get rebated the interest. That hasn't really come to fruition. Usually that's been running between 60 and 68% of what it would have been. We never did get 100% throughout the whole life of it. But that will end, you won't see that by 2028, that's gone, because in FY '27, which will be your next year budget, that the last payment on the HVAC at Runlet will be made. So that'll be, you won't see that after that year.
The 2009 HVAC.
Yep. Yep. Okay. And then, nothing from Medicare Part D. The Medicaid distribution, that's what we submit our claims through. We anticipate, potentially 150,000 more than what we have budgeted this year. We'll see where that comes in. And then, obviously the E-rate as well. Just a small reduction, but that's the federal government. The only thing, they used to pay for landlines and I think cell phones and internet. Now it's just internet. That's it. That's all they pay for. So that's E-rate, what they call Category 1. Then there's Category 2, and Category 2 is infrastructure, and that comes around every 5 years. So based on your original schedule, we had thought about for the new Runlet, but we might skip off that window depending on what happens to help with that infrastructure money.
John, can you just talk a little bit about what we get Medicaid for schools for? I just think, given the federal discussion about cuts to Medicaid, it's important to understand what this money comes for and what it's used for.
So yeah, so anything that comes to us from basically our speech therapists, occupational therapists, school counseling, our educational assistants, which under Medicaid are called rehabilitative assistants, because it's a medical law in field, things like that. So any one of those providers, specialized transportation based on a medical need, anything that has to do with a medical need that with a child with a disability, that needs to be, supplemented throughout the day, we're able to bill for those. So we collect logs on all of our services, any of our speech services, OT services, physical therapy, counseling services, nursing services. We collect logs on all of those and we submit them back through a vendor, which is called Relay now. We have a new vendor this year. To the Department of Human Services and through Medicaid to get a reimbursement for our students. It's a percentage. That percentage varies, so I'm not going to quote a percentage because it will change the minute I quote it. So I think that basically that all of our providers throughout the day log and track their services for all of our students, and then we were able to take that, put it into a system, bill for it, and then we receive checks to the district periodically throughout the year. So, and it varies, it varies the amount. It's as good as our billing is, as good as our transportation logs are. All of our logs have to be very accurate, which our team does a nice job with, so we're able to bill. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, transfers. So these are transfers in and out of your trust funds. So in this budget, we propose transfers into the trust and transfers out of the trust. So there's the name of each of the trusts, the projected balance if we use the ones that are projected for this year, and then the transfers in is what we're expected to put in, and the transfers out is what we expect to take out. Net result of what the balance would be potentially June 30th, 2026. So going back to Sarah's comment, you see my important note. This transfers out are one-time revenues to the general fund. If the state provides additional funding, we recommend that the board review these transfers and make adjustments if necessary. So because that 2.45 million is one-shot money we're bringing in. I mean, some of you have been around for the risk budgets that we take, and then it winds up working out because the biannual budget works out. We get a little money, you put that away, you lower the tax rate. Everything just kind of works through, and we come in, we slide in. But if it doesn't, this snow pile gets a lot bigger next year.
I know. That's what I'm worried about.
Okay, so that's where the risk is in this budget. Okay. Any questions? I know this was a marathon meeting for 30 minutes.
Ms. Hastings?
You may have already answered this, and I apologize for being a little bit late. Would it be possible for Wednesday night's meeting to have a list of adds to the budget and a list of cuts to the budget beside one another with dollar amounts for both? Roughly.
Is this the staffing one that we produced, or
All
you
of
mean?
it. Any place in the budget where you have asked for new something
Okay.
that wasn't currently
Yep.
in the budget, and any place where you've made a cut to the budget.
Okay.
I'd like to see them side by side
Yep.
with money amounts.
Okay. Yep.
Shoot, that'll be helpful.
Anyone else?
I like the way you think.
Okay.
So I'll go into the work session schedule and then move on, because
Okay.
this is in preparation for Wednesday. So work session schedule, you've done the 4 work sessions now. March 5th is the big one, the first big one of a couple, where you need to post a budget in order to meet this time frame. Obviously, if that moves under your charter, you need to have a 10-day notice. So that moves, everything else has to move, including when you finalize your budget. So as of right now, we anticipate that you'll vote on the 5th, okay? We're hoping for it, to post a budget for the public hearings. For the 5th.
And to remember that that's not a final budget, that's just a discussion budget for the public.
It's a drafty draft, as they say.
Yeah. So, on the 5th, we have the SRO presentation. You'll have that first. And then, as a follow-up to questions, you wanted the uniform replacement plan, which we have. Impact on debt service for Memorial Field. That'll be a couple different options because it depends on what you fund. Do you just do the plan? Do you do the phase 1? Do you do all of it? So you'll have a couple options there. Then there was an ask about staffing listing by function. So there was the December 2024 report that lists everything. We just want to see if that's good enough, or do you want something else produced? Because that book has everything by building, by function, everything that they do. So, the revenue for adequacy was asked about that, but we're gonna do all of them Wednesday night. But that's what we get per student under adequacy under SPED, $2,184.84. And then athletics, you were asking about trainer versus the contracted service. And then you're asking about a flat scenario of a budget. So we'll show you what that would mean. And again, with the caveats of you have contractual obligations that you have to meet. So we have that and your debt service. If I put everything back to being even, what would that number be? So you have an idea. And we also have another couple little things to say if you had boards have not made progress on some things. It'll be an eye-opening on the health insurance. So very big, huge, big number. And then any other that you have, which we heard tonight, was the adequacy base and a side-by-side of the cuts.
And ads.
And that's, yes. I only put side by side here, so I gotta put,
Thank you.
okay?
Anything else?
That feels like a lot already.
Okay, and then everything is posted, including this presentation, and then Concord TV will get things posted out, your information, and I think that's it, okay? With 7 minutes to spare.
Look at us.
I will take a motion to adjourn the budget work session.
So moved.
Moved by Ms. Boucher, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Robinson, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstention? Motion passes. We will regather in 7 minutes for the monthly board meeting.
I
Fantastic.
don't need,
Everyone arrives.
I think everyone's here.
yeah,
Campbell,
I'm
just
gonna disconnect.